Ed, I'm thankful that I have some time to get on here and speak with you. Let's talk about breathing. That's where the harp comes in. Can you explain what the harp is?
Hi, Phil. Harmonicas were often called harps in the early 1950s when a homeless man living along the Mississippi River near my home showed me his way. I was around 9 years old then, and I already felt like I was suffocating. I've been breathing poison fumes since I arrived here on Earth less than 2 weeks after the end of World War II in late 1945. In those days, just about everybody in my universe was addicted to nicotine. They smoked cigarettes morning, day, and night. Many women smoked throughout their pregnancies, and smoking around infants was commonly accepted. It's difficult to imagine now just how widespread and acceptable this filthy, toxic drug habit was back then. Cigarettes gained momentum during World War II. The military put them in C rations back then, and America associated smoking with optimal performance and courage. But in fact, cigarettes were slowly killing my parents and many of the World War II generation. By the end of the war, chain smoking was the American way. It could even help you get fit. Prominent medical doctors recommended cigarettes. Even some dentists took their share of the profits. Trusted movie stars became drug pushers. Grown-ups smoked in libraries, hospitals, schools, restaurants, taverns, and homes across the country. So I and many other kids grew up constantly breathing carcinogens, and we suffered lung, brain, and other organ damage early in life when our tiny bodies could least defend the assault. America back then was also grooming children with candy cigarettes, 20 pieces of hard white edible chalk, and a chance to be grown up for only 5 cents. This is I, mocking my elders for my little brother Keith at around the time I started learning the harp. My teacher showed me how to put a weight on the center of my epigastric triangle and a light guide ball between my arms. We started supine, and I eventually practiced in a variety of static and dynamic postures, including marching up and down hills. I could feel my whole body coming to life. My teacher's method didn't have a name then, but today, as you know, Phil, we call it Harp Optimized Pulmonary Education, or HOPE. In around 2000, I began reading that hospitals and clinics around the country are using harmonicas to treat PTSD, COPD, and a variety of other related ailments. So I started developing the HOPE progressions we've been exploring for several years now, and I'll always appreciate your interest early on. I was recently reliving my youth in search of training insights, and I recalled practicing in the old cemetery high up on a hill overlooking the Mississippi River, where we trained with Indian clubs when you came to visit me a few years ago here in Davenport, Iowa. I practiced there often many years ago, under clear blue skies, surrounded by green earth and old gravestones. It was a life-changing aha journey.
The red man's camp lies on her borders. Away, we're bound away. Across the wide Missouri.
Well, it was an aha moment for me because when you first introduced it to me, and then I took it back, I remember you gave me a whole case of harps, and I took it back into the gym and I just started practicing on my own. And I grew up in sort of the same conditions where I remember driving in my school bus and the bus driver would smoke. And every single day I would breathe in that smoke. And I developed asthma when I was a kid pretty bad. So breathing was always an issue for me. And then when I would play sports, it would get even worse because I didn't know how to control it. And then when I got into fitness, I really started to figure out how much this was affecting me. So when I got introduced to the harp, I knew that the breath had to go into my belly but I didn't know necessarily how to get it there. I thought I did, but then when I was introduced to the harp and I started practicing with it, the best way I could describe it was that it felt effortless. I didn't have to think about what I was doing. And then when I started to practice with the weight on my belly, that was something that was pretty amazing because I could feel my heartbeat, like in my stomach. When I get that weight that would just sink right in there nice and deep, I could feel, and I would hold that note at the end real long. I could feel my heartbeat there. It was unbelievable. So I started to teach it to my students. Almost every one of my students has used it or uses it currently. There's not a day that goes by that I don't use the harp.
I believe you are on target, Phil. Breathing and related internal training deserves as much attention as external. I last wrote about this topic in an article for Taekwondo Times magazine in 1997, and I still search the web to learn more about how others approach breathing today. After all these years, the humble diatonic harp continues to offer me a fuller life, and I hope you and the many people you teach will explore the harp and create a better system than that which I've offered you.
This has been great, Ed. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed this, like always, when we talk. Thanks, Ed.
All right. See ya.